Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Real Combat Media Boxing Radio, episode 37. I'm your host, Christy Rosario, here in Los Angeles. My co-host is Richard Solomon, the boxing prophet in New York City. Vivek Wallace, who owns Left Hook Lounge Radio and is a correspondent for a few boxing media publications, will be joining us in just a little while as our guest media host. You can call us live at 347-324-5998. You can Twitter us at Real Combat Media or at Boxing Girl, which is mine, BXINGIRL, or Boxing Prophet 68, which is the Boxing Prophet. You can find us on Facebook in the search bar. Just put Real Combat Media. We have tons of boxing to talk about today. Our topics for this episode are the recaps of Adonis Stevenson versus Tony Bellew. Oh, my gosh, I'm stuttering on his name again. And Sergey Kovalev versus Ismail Salak. I didn't even say that right. I'm, losing my mind here. Sorry about that. Going through the script, thinking about everything that we've been missing. We will also preview the stacked HBO and Showtime cards that will be featured on December 7th. Later in the show, we have undefeated welterweight Chase Corbin from the Mayweather Boxing Gym in Las Vegas, Nevada. And last but certainly not least on our list here today will be Hall of Fame boxing commentator and current Showtime boxing analyst Al Bernstein. I'm really looking forward to talking to both of these guys. First, but he is not here yet. I think he's still working out. He will be here shortly. Will be undefeated welterweight and the 2012 Real Combat Media Boxing Prospect of the Year. He'll be facing Jesus Soto Karass on December 14th on Showtime. Keith One-Time Thurman. But he'll be here in just a little while. How are you, Prophet? Are you there, Prophet? Hello? Now he disappeared. I don't know what happened. Well, we will just have to talk and see where everyone is today. So we have tons of boxing and lots of things to talk about. What I'm going to do, though, because I want to see if everybody can hear me, if we're having technical difficulties again today, hopefully not, I'm going to go to a commercial and come right back. So just come right back in 1 minute, and we'll talk more.
This is Real Combat Media Radio. Check us out at realcombatmedia.com. While you're there, check out the Feed the Poor link on the bottom of every article, and you can send a donation if you're interested. That is, once again, on the bottom of every article as well as on the top of the website. If you are an MMA, boxing, or fitness business and interested in sponsoring our website or radio podcast, send us an email. Advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Once again, that is advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Make sure to check out the Real Combat Media MMA and boxing store at the top of the menu at realcombatmedia.com. We carry a collection of products. We have the Cardio Mask, which is excellent for all fighters, endurance athletes, and serious fitness enthusiasts. Once you are in the Real Combat Media store, click on the banner on that page. We also carry Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain is a great and natural product which activates your brain's neurotransmitters and helps you think more clearly, which improves brain function. You can also purchase the world's healthiest plant protein, which comes from hemp. There are many other products online on the online store, and click on the On It banner at the Real Combat Media store, and you can purchase Alpha Brain and other health products. Use the discount code Real Combat Media, and you will receive 10% out at the checkout store on the On It. That is ONNIT on the banner at Real Combat Media store. Buckle up. Here we go. Let's get this show started.
Welcome back to Real Combat Media Boxing Radio, episode episode 37. We had a little bit of a rocky start, but we're back with my co-host, the Boxing Prophet. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm doing okay, and I feel a little bit bad, though, because I think my cold that lasted over 3 weeks traveled from New York to California, and it finally reached you. Maybe you had, like, sympathy pains or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd have sympathy pains and get sick, but I did get sick, but I am better, thankfully. Did you get all better, or are you still sick?
No, I'm better. That's it's the miracle of heavy-duty antibiotics. I'm finally at full strength.
Really? All I did was, my friend, she's doing these doTERRA therapeutic oils, essential oils, and she told me which ones to take. I was getting terrible sinus infection. My head felt like someone was sitting on it, and my son and I took these oils every 2 hours, and I got better. So I'm definitely going to do more doTERRA through her and vitamins, and then I didn't have to take those antibiotics. Is that cool?
Yeah, I would love it. You know, I think we spoke off the air. You were telling me about that. You're going to have to send me a link so I can get access to those oils or vitamins. The healthier the prophet feels, the better everyone else is.
I will. Yeah, my friend's, what is her website is doTERRA, DOTERRA, Mother, doTERRA Mother, I think, .com. I got to find that out. But we're here. Thurman's not here yet. I think he is still working out, sparring, getting ready for Jesus Soto Karass, and that fight is coming up on the 14th. But before that, we do have Paulie Malignaggi and Zab Judah. We have so much boxing. I have pages and pages for December. I mean, there must be at least a couple thousand rounds in this whole month, Prophet.
It's insanity. And, you know, some people don't like it because you have HBO and Showtime going head-to-head. I love it. You watch one card live, you DVR the other card and watch it the next day. It's great. You have a triple header on HBO emanating from Atlantic City. You have a quadruple header, 4 fights on Showtime emanating from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. I'm planning on attending. I'm not 100% sure I'm going yet, but I'd love to because you have 4 feature fights on Showtime, and you have 2 Olympians, Saddam Ali and Marcus Brown, fighting on the untelevised portion of the card. And it's just a phenomenal weekend for boxing fans all over the country to tune in and watch.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. What amazes me, you know, I printed out everything, is that, you know, it's not just HBO and Showtime. You have GoFightLive.tv on the 4th with Boyd Nelson versus Gundrick King, 8 rounds junior middleweights. On the 5th, you have boxing in Costa Mesa, which you can't, unfortunately it's not televised, but it's an awesome place, Roy Engelbrecht Promotions, and it's a huge hangar, and there's always the best fights. And there we have Lisette Medell versus Melisenda Perez, which is 10 rounds, female junior featherweight, which I think will be awesome. Also, there's tons of fights. Alexander Flores versus Aaron Lyons, 8 rounds, heavyweights. Then December 6th in Chicago, ESPN3.com. And what amazed me, and I know I'm jumping ahead, but I want to ask you, Roy Jones Jr. is fighting. I didn't even know. I thought he was retired.
Yeah, Roy Jones Jr. seems to, you know, come and go as he pleases, and his goal in life, believe it or not now, is to challenge UFC legend Anderson Silva to a boxing match. And apparently if they each win their next respective bouts, I should say, that might happen. And it will be, you know, like I said, a boxing match. And Roy Jones should come away with the victory. Nothing's etched in stone. You don't know how his reflexes and his hand speed are going to hold up at his advanced age. But then again, you know, one of your favorite fighters, Sugar Shane Mosley, had that same problem against Anthony Mundine. You know, his reflexes and his hand speed finally gave way. And I think for all intent purposes, Sugar Shane Mosley all but announced his retirement. And thank God for that. Suffice to say, if Roy Jones Jr. does come away with a loss, I can't see him prolonging his career. He would have no choice but to scrap that boxing match with UFC legend Anderson Silva and finally retire once and for all, which I think he should even if he wins, but that's another story.
Well, I was amazed. I really didn't know. So he's fighting Bobby Gunn, 12 rounds cruiserweights at Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. It doesn't say if it's televised. You'd think since he's he's a commentator that they would televise it, but I'm not sure. I mean, you have fights all over the place. You have in Caguas, Puerto Rico, yay, Atlantic City, NBC Sports Net. I love that more networks and everything are doing boxing again. I mean, we have Mexico, England, Germany, Oklahoma. I mean, Australia, Tokyo. This is cool. Prophet, you could just be flying around the world watching boxing this month.
It is unbelievable. Let me just reiterate that Gunn's style was made for Roy Jones, and if he has anything left, Jones should win an easy decision. I don't think he'll take a risk and go for the knockout. But also, I think in Australia on Friday night, you have probably the longest champion in any weight class, Chris John, who I think continues to amaze me, probably the most underrated and underappreciated champion in the sport today. He defends his WBA featherweight title in Australia on Friday night, December 6th. So you go all over the globe, and you have fights. And what I love about most of the fights, especially the ones on Showtime and HBO, which we'll preview later on in the show, a lot of them are 50-50 fights. I mean, my brain is completely fried today. You know, being the prophet, I had to study all these fights, come up with predictions, and a lot of these, I think you and I and the rest of the panel, we're going to have a lot of conflict between the two or the three of us. There are a lot of fights that are up in the air that could go either way, and it's crazy. It's just studying all these fights and, you know, getting all excited about them. It's enough to drive me crazy, but I'm still excited about it.
It's going to drive you crazy, but you're still excited about it. Well, that's like an oxymoron, I think, but I understand what you're saying. You're just not going to be able to watch everything. I hope that's okay.
No. Like I said, I'm just going to watch. Most likely, if I don't go to the Showtime card in person, I'm definitely going to watch that live, and then probably DVR the HBO card and watch that Sunday afternoon. But I kind of know who I'm going to predict to win in all the fights. It's just some of them, they're so evenly matched, a lot of these fights. It's very, very hard in a lot of these, to pick a definitive winner. But I like that, though. It makes it more challenging, and it makes the shows a lot more entertaining to watch when you don't have really a prohibitive favorite and you don't think it's going to be a total demolition. I like the competitive nature of a lot of these fights coming up this weekend.
I like them, too. I like a lot. I mean, I think Chase is going to call him now since Keith has to wait a little while. But while we're waiting for him, we could talk a teeny bit about Adonis Stevenson versus Tony Bellew. Now, did I say his name right? I hear it all the time, and I know the fighter, but I always want to call him Bellew, and I don't think that's right. How do you pronounce it?
Bellew is right. You were correct the first
time. Okay, I was correct.
And
okay,
he
good.
was the one, believe it. Yeah, he was the one that was initiating the trash talking at the press conferences and got in Adonis Stevenson's face. And believe it or not, I thought it was more a competitive fight than most people. There was a controversial moment in the middle rounds when I thought Bellew landed a left hook that sort of wobbled Stevenson, but because their legs sort of got intertwined with each other and Stevenson went down, the ref called it a slip, and rightly so because their legs did crisscross. But Stevenson was hurt on that one occasion, and he didn't seem to get like being hit by Bellew, who fought admirably well in spots. He did what I thought he would do. He boxed. He had a big height and reach advantage, and he tried to use that. But Stevenson did a pretty good job of cutting off the ring. He was most concerned, Bellew, about a premature stoppage, but the referee did a great job. I like the way Stevenson responded to adversity by scoring that first knockdown with a picture-perfect left hand. Then he froze Bellew again with a beautiful left hook, and the referee had no choice but to stop it in round 6. But I definitely gave one of those rounds to Bellew. I thought it was what I like to call a competitive mismatch. You look on the scorecards, and Stevenson won a majority of the rounds, so you might not think it's competitive. But in spots, I thought Bellew gave Stevenson some problems with his movement, with his jab. Stevenson does cut off the ring fairly well, but I think a lot of his game was exposed, and I think he would have problems with a fighter who moves around the ring, uses good foot movement, punches from angles, and also Stevenson's punches were a little bit wider than they were in previous fights. You know, when he fought Chad Dawson and Tavares Cloud, his punches were straighter, more accurate down the middle. Against Bellew, maybe because of the animosity he felt with the brawl that took place at the press conference, his punches weren't, as crisp or as accurate. Although, he did score the TKO victory, but overall he finally showed some chinks in his armor that weren't there when he defeated Chad Dawson and Tavares Cloud back-to-back, respectively.
Right. Yeah, when I was watching the fight, I couldn't even look. Like, finally, when oh, my God, Adonis Stevenson and, Tony just was so out of it. I was so afraid. I mean, he was out on his feet. I was so afraid the referee was not going to get in there fast enough and he was going to end up on the canvas. But thankfully, the referee did jump in and stop the fight because that had to be over. I thought it was a pretty good fight until that point, and then he got caught and all the trash talking. You can talk as much trash as you want, and then you get in that ring, and it speaks for itself. And those shorts, those are pretty interesting shorts. What did you think? You like them that short? Kind of cute?
Yeah, I guess if you're a fashion connoisseur, you kind of like those shorts. But and you made a good point that the referee, as much as we trash referees and judges lately, the referee did a great job. And it was interesting because they had said live on the telecast that Bellew made a point of telling the referee, please don't stop it prematurely. I'm a fighter who's been knocked down many times, but I always get up and fight on. But like you said, he was literally out on his feet, and the referee did a great job of stopping that fight when he did. The shorts I can live without, but a great job by the ref.
Well, I'm going to correct you because you can't say we when you say trash-talking judges and referees. You know I don't trash-talk judges and referees because I respect them all, understand that everyone is seeing something different, and as a referee you have to make that split decision. So for me, I'm a little more neutral on that end. But you know what? We are going to come up here now with our undefeated prospect here, Troy. Actually, here we go. I'm going to bring him on because he's got to tell me. I call him Chase Corbin. I couldn't find him in BoxRec. Are you Chase Corbin or are you Troy Corbin? Who are you?
Birth name Troy Corbin, but I go by Chase Corbin.
I don't know. Okay, how did you get from Troy, Luis, Corbin? How did you get Chase?
I got that name from running from the police. Like, they always had to chase me and couldn't catch me. So if you see a policeman in the ring, you probably won't catch me or see me fight.
Oh, God. That's a good one, though, So I think we need to spell it a little different than it's being spelled. But, no, that was good. That's a good story. So welcome to the show. So you want to be called Chase, right?
Yeah, Chase is fine. Chase is fine.
Chase is fine? Okay. Yeah. Well, how are you today? Did you do any boxing? Did you train today?
Yeah, I trained. They didn't do no boxing. I'm kind of tired of boxing. I was sparring Kasim Uma and Joe Judah last week, so I'm kind of tired. So I didn't box today. Probably get in there tomorrow.
Okay, now, is that Judah's father? Is he training you, or are you still with the Mayweathers? I'm kind of confused.
No, they just friends of mine. They just friends of mine. They're not training me. Jeff's still my trainer, but, of course, he's ill right now, so I've been working with my strength trainer, JT. So I've pretty much just been working with him until Jeff gets better. But, no, I'm still trained by Jeff Mayweather, as far as I know.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you know. Well, I heard also that you just signed with Cameron Duncan, which is congratulations. Yeah. That's great news.
Oh, thank you.
Are you, thrilled about that?
It's okay. It's okay. I'll be thrilled. I'll be more thrilled when I get a decent fight, bigger fight, more money. Mainly more money. Don't care about the fight. But mainly more money.
More money. Well, you're doing very well. You've won 8. You have 7 KOs. Never lost, no draws, so you're definitely on the way. You're up-and-coming welterweight. we're supposed to have another welterweight, Keith Thurman, on the show today. So what would you think of fighting him sometime?
Is he a Golden Boy fighter?
Prophet,
is he a Golden Boy fighter?
I'm trying to remember.
I believe he is a Golden Boy fighter, yes.
Oh, it'll never happen. So I just wish him the best of luck. I mean, because, Cameron associated with Top Rank, Golden Boy, the beef. And I don't even know if it's beef. I just think that they just don't get along and don't do business. So, when we talk about big names and me, huh?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say
it seems that way. Yeah, it seems that way, but I wouldn't care. Like, I want to go back to the Tommy Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran era where it didn't matter who you were signed with. We all going to fight and see who the real champion is. Now you don't even know who the real champion is because they don't coincide with each other. You know what I'm saying? They don't do business together. But, if it happened, it happened. I don't even think about him because I'm not even, like, he's at a higher plateau than me. I mean, I'm not
going to say he just has a lot more fights than you. Yeah,
exactly.
He just has a lot more.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if I was on at the same level as him, I would be like, I would like to make the fight with Keith Thurman. You know what I'm saying? But right now, I'm not. I haven't even been thinking about that. I gotta climb a few more uphill battles, and then I'll get there. But I don't think it'll happen. I don't see it happening. You know what I'm saying?
You never know. I'm hoping because I really, like you said, I want to go back to Hagler and Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard.
And honestly, I actually think me and Keith will make a good fight. I actually think me and him will make a good fight. Like, I've seen him fight a few times. Like, I think I've seen him fight twice. And because of our attitudes, I think we will make a great fight.
So are you a puncher, or you like to get in there and scrap and, duke it out, or are you actually like a boxer and you just kind of like, I can't picture you. Just by talking to you, I bet you like to get in there and hit hard.
I'll box, honestly. But, when you get hit inside your head, all that shit go out the window. Now you doing what you got. You throwing whatever punch that lands. You know what I'm saying? So I box. I'm pretty much a boxer, puncher. Like, my favorite fighter is Tommy Hearns. So that's who I mimic. That's who I try to fight like. I try to let that right hand go and it's over. So far it's worked for me. My last fight was I pretty had to be more versatile because of who I was fighting. He was pretty okay. He had a lot of experience. So I don't know. I do whatever I can to win, except bite people and stuff like that. I haven't bit nobody yet or head-butted nobody.
No biting, Chase, okay?
Yeah,
no biting. Please. That's terrible.
Yeah.
But, Amy Green, who is your publicist, was telling me that, you really like Hearns, and you're almost like a little Tommy Hearns, and that's your era. You're like a throwback, huh?
Right. I like all throwback fighters. I don't like this new stuff now. I don't like this politics and all that. I don't like this stuff. Like, right now, I'm boxing because I got 1 foot in I had 1 foot in and 1 foot out. But now I got both feet in. But, like I said, I wish the era that I lived in was the 80s. You know what I'm saying? Maybe even the early 90s. But now it's just like I said, you got promoters that don't like each other. You got matchmakers that show favoritism. The fans don't even appreciate the sport no more. They took away the 15 rounds. They got all this new elliptical machines and all that. Before, fighters would just run, lose the weight. Whatever you weigh in at, that's what you're fighting at. Now people using all these steroids and stuff. There's so much going on. They be like, damn. I wish I was I wish I did live in that era, so I can actually see the real champion, be a real champion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you exactly. I have to agree with a lot of that. Don't you, Prophet? Wouldn't you like it to be back when anyone fought anyone?
Absolutely. I'm listening to you speak to Chase, and I feel like I'm Chase's dad. I'm starting to show my age. He's making me feel old, talking about Thomas the Hitman Hearns, who, by the way, Chase, is my favorite fighter of all time. My favorite knockout of all time was Hitman Hearns over legendary and iconic Roberto Duran.
Right.
Not every day you see Roberto Duran face planted to the canvas, but my question for you, Chase, is that you're a prospect, you're up and coming, your better days are so far ahead of you, especially if you emulate the style of my hero Thomas the Hitman Hearns. But there seems to be a Cold War brewing. HBO against Showtime, Golden Boy against Top Rank. You haven't
Right.
really gotten a foot in the door yet, and you touched on it at the beginning of the interview. As a fighter who's on the rise, like, how do you feel about that? I mean, because it wasn't around in the 80s when I was a big boxing fan. I'm 45 years old now, so I love, the 80s, back in the day when the greats fought each other. And now
Right.
you're never going to see fights like that. Are you discouraged? Do you sometimes say maybe I picked the wrong sport?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I always out for it. I mean, if it was up to me, I would have played baseball. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the highest paid for it. But not only it's not that I picked the wrong sport. It's just like, it's just like anything else. Something has to change. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look how long people want that Manny Pacquiao-Floyd fight, and that fight won't happen over egos. You see what I'm saying? It won't happen over egos. I mean, I'm sure at some point they can work this money out. And I can't say that it's that much different because you actually make more money now than they did back then. You know what I'm saying? Like, people was fighting for, 10 cents a round, $1 a round back in the, early 1920s. You know what I'm saying? And now you can cash out somebody like, let's not use Floyd. Let's not use Floyd or Manny Pacquiao because their money is, totally different. I don't think you'll ever see somebody make that much money again except for another 20 years from now. Maybe another 15, 20 years from now. Because the only person that made it before him was Tyson. Then after that, it was Floyd. So, and then Manny Pacquiao, you could say he climbed, but he took care of the whole country, so you can't really include him. But let's say on a smaller scale, who makes less money besides Floyd and Pacquiao?
Well, you can also say we were deprived of another showdown when Abner Morris was supposed to fight Nonito Donaire before,
right.
Of course, they both lost respectively. Abner Morris got knocked out by Johnny Gonzalez, and Donaire sort of got exposed by Rigondeaux. But they were on a collision course, but the powers that be wouldn't let them fight him. We also, a few years ago, we didn't get to see Wanma against Gamboa as well.
Right. So it's just one of them things, man. Like, you just gotta capitalize on what position you're put in. I mean, what am I going to do? Am I going to argue with De La Hoya and Richard Schaefer, or am I going to argue with Bob Arum and Brad Goodman? You know what I'm saying? Like, so, or better yet, am I going to call Cameron and cuss him out? So it's like you got to just, I guess, play the cards you was dealt. You know what I'm saying? It's just a shame for the fans, like, because I'm a person that sit back on the outside looking in. That's why I don't do that pity-pat fighting shit. When I come to fight, I'm going to fight. I'm going to get hit. I'm going to throw some hits. I'm going to get hit. I think that's the sport. That's the sport you sign up for. All this hit and don't get hit. Yeah, it's good to have some defense, but goddamn, don't run. You know what I'm saying? Like, I see everybody using the shoulder roll. It don't work for everybody, Why don't you just keep your hands up or keep them down? One or the other. Keep them up or keep them down. Either you're going to get hit or you're not going to get hit. Or throw some punches. So I look at it from a point of view. So I kind of be feeling they pain, like, damn, I would love to see this fight. I would love to see that, you know what I'm saying? And the fights you just don't see. Like, that's why I don't even pay for boxing. If I don't get a free ticket, I'm not going. If somebody's not streaming it on a laptop in my house, I'm not watching. Because I don't pay for the watching no more because I know how it's set up. Look at the sports book. I mean, I live in Vegas. Look at the sports book. Anytime they have fighters plus 900, plus 800, that means you got to put down $900 to win $100. That's guaranteed money in a sense because they know who's going to win. You don't get that 50-50 fight experience no more.
Good point.
Well,
that's for sure. So how can we change this, Chase? What would you like? I mean, what would you like to see?
I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the fighters, too. You'll be surprised how many people dodge other fighters. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of it has to do with the fighters. Like, it got to do with the fighters and it got to do with the politics of the sports. I was explaining to somebody today that they were like, oh, a super middleweight want to fight. And I said, when is the fight? They said Saturday. I said, shit, I'll fight him. I said, what's his record? They said 13-0. I said, all right, I'm 8-0. It'll make a decent fight. But then I had to come back and realize, like, damn, hold up, this ain't the 80s. I'm tripping. You know what I'm saying? Because before, having a loss didn't matter. Now, if you have a loss, you got to win 6 wins, and it got to be 6 spectacular wins, in order to make up for that one loss. If you have 4 losses, forget about it. You're an opponent. You see what I'm saying? So
you don't want that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, before, like, you get a loss, all right, so what? You're going to fight again. Think about, all right, I'm going to give you one example. Tommy Hearns knocked out Roberto Duran, right?
Right.
Marvin Hagler knocked out Tommy Hearns. Sugar Ray Leonard beat Tommy Hearns. You see what I'm saying? You see how that cycle had went around in one big circle, and it didn't matter who lost. Y'all just wanted to see the fight. So the fans, the bloggers, the people, they need to want that back. I can't just say, y'all, we need to have it back. Everybody else got to want it back for at least people to even want to fight. And then it got a lot to do with the fighters, too. They know that if they lose, they 10 steps back. It's not like if they lose. Even on the pay scale, if you was $1 million fighter, if you lose, you're going back to $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 after you just was $1 million fighter.
You have definitely good points. You should write a book, Chase. I could see you writing a book about all this. It's very interesting to listen to you.
It's just stuff that I observed just being in the sport, and I'm young in the sport. Like, this is stuff that I've seen in my 8-fight career.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the stuff I'm going to see at 20, 30 fights?
Yeah, so, very true. We'll have a totally different conversation when you come back on in 20, 30 fights, right? It's totally different. But you're wise for your time in boxing. You're wise. How long have you been actually boxing altogether with the whole training and starting up?
I probably got about 9-10 years in. That's including the amateurs and, training as a kid, stuff like that.
Right.
That's about 16,
and
17.
How were the amateurs for you?
Amateurs was bad for me because even though I did well in the amateurs, but it was bad because of the simple fact that I had a pro style in the amateurs.
Yeah, that's hard.
But I didn't take the amateurs seriously at all. I wouldn't even leave Philadelphia. Like, if I had a fight in Pittsburgh somewhere, I wouldn't leave. I'm like, I'm not going out there. Ohio, I could afford. It was some tournament, Silver Glove tournament, some tournament in somewhere. I was like, I'm not leaving Philadelphia. But if I would have known what I know
Silver
now,
Gloves, it was Kansas
yeah,
City. You didn't want to go to
City,
Kansas City?
Yeah,
you don't want to go to
I'm
beautiful Kansas City?
I'm not taking my black ass out no Kansas City. There's black people in Kansas City?
Yes, there are.
It was just like a lot of stuff that I did just from being ignorant and not knowing that I wish I would have took them seriously. I took the amateurs seriously.
Well, you've grown up in your 27 years. You can tell that you're a lot wiser now. So you're making the right decisions, and I'm glad you didn't take that fight, though, with like 3 days' notice.
Right.
Guys, you never want to be the opponent. And now you have Cameron Duncan. You guys are going to make smart moves, right?
I mean, he's one of the veteran managers in the game. I mean, I got respect for him. I got respect for him because of our conversations. You know what I'm saying? We have regular conversations, men to men, heart to heart. We just put it all out on the table, and we go from there. So I can't say I have any complaints with him. You got to call him. You got to call him 50 times, but other than that, you'll get him on the 51st time. You'll get it.
Well, what's interesting is you should feel kind of honored because I hate to say this, it doesn't sound very politically correct, but Cameron Duncan doesn't have a lot of black fighters now, does he? Timothy Bradley, I'm trying to think, who else? I think he's one of the few.
But over the years, he's had black fighters. I hear Raheem, Terrence Carson.
Right.
Over the years, he's had black fighters. Is Chico Corrales considered black?
Was Chico Corrales, he was Latino, wasn't he?
He was Latino and black, I think. I don't know, but, I think that he...
Well, I'm here. I'm just listening to the conversation.
Well,
I agree.
I was asking you a question. Chico Corrales, did you consider him black or Latino?
I consider him a mix. I think he's a little bit of both, like Chase was saying.
Okay, mix.
Yeah,
well, I think
you gotta. That's another thing. Black. First of all, boxing is primarily a Mexican sport, a Spanish sport. It's just that if you look at the fights, if you look at boxing, a lot of Mexicans show the heart, the warrior spirit, and all that. when it comes to the flashiness and the actual boxing, you see that in black fighters. You see what I'm saying? You see the difference? That's why I have the best fights.
No, it's true.
In my personal opinion, you know, because it's a different mentality. You're going to see a smart boxer outbox a brawler or a banger. Like another one of my favorite fights was Meldrick Taylor and Chavez. That's another one of my favorite fights. That was a prime example of the boxer versus the slick boxer versus the brawler. You know what I'm saying? So it can go either way, but it makes exciting fights. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
We do.
I don't know.
Chase, you have to tell me though. Do you have a fight coming up?
Yeah, I'm supposed to fight in January. I've been training for a fight in January. I'm not sure the date yet. I'm actually supposed to meet with Cameron tonight, and we're going to talk about where I'm fighting, who I'm fighting, when I'm fighting. So sometime in January, I should be in the ring. Or if not early February, it don't really matter to me. I want to stay as busy as I can, though, for 2014.
2014. And now who do you have? Zab Judah. I think I know who you're going to say, but Zab Judah, Paulie Malignaggi. What do you think about this fight?
I like both of them, but I like Zab more. Just because I think Zab could probably hit harder and probably could take Paulie punches, being as though he's not a big puncher. But they both are actually good boxers, you know. I think it's a fight for a money fight. Not really a money fight, but they doing it for a check. I guess to put themselves in a better position. I don't know who's supposed to be next after they fight.
Prophet,
like,
that's a good question for you.
Like the winner, who will they fight? Will it be Adrian Broner? I mean, I don't see Paulie fighting them. Would it be?
Well, Malignaggi already fought Broner.
Right.
So we'll have to wait and see. But it's very rare that I say a fighter is coming off of a good loss. But I thought Malignaggi and Zab Judah both acquitted themselves pretty nicely in their last fight. Malignaggi gave Adrian Broner all he could handle. It was a 7-5 fight in my eyes. And Zab Judah...
So hold on, a 7-5 fight which way?
I thought Broner won the fight 7 rounds to 5, but I thought Malignaggi acquitted himself very well.
I disagree. I disagree. Now, not a bad disagreement. I mean, at least you got it close. But the reason I say I disagree is because people was looking at how hard Broner was hitting Malignaggi, but they wasn't looking at how many times Malignaggi touched Broner. Now, if Malignaggi had more pop and more strength in his punches, that fight would have went a whole different way. But because you got a fighter that can't hurt you, it's easy for you to walk through and have more effective punches. But if you actually looked at it, I think Malignaggi touched Broner a lot more.
I completely agree with you. It was a tough fight to score, and I even sent a tweet out to Adrian Broner that it's no crime to throw a jab. I think Broner made that fight a lot tougher on himself than he had to. If he had thrown the jab, he only threw about 30 jabs that whole fight. If he throws a jab in that fight, dominates Malignaggi 9-3. But he's obsessed with becoming a fan-friendly fighter, and he just doesn't box anymore. He slugs. But also, I like the way Zab Judah rallied down the stretch against Danny Garcia. In my eyes, he actually gave Garcia a tougher fight than Matisse did. So
I agree.
It's hard to say. They're both coming off of fairly productive losses. And I urge you to listen to the end of the show because my prediction for this fight will shock a lot of people, and I don't want to give it away. So hopefully you'll tune in, or you'll speak to Amy, or you'll download the show, and you'll get my startling prediction.
You could just give us your prediction now. You can tell us now. We have so much other boxing to talk about. Let's hear your prediction.
Well, being that when both guys seem to get the fights that should launch their careers into the upper stratosphere, they fall a little bit short. They both lose to Amir Khan. Malignaggi loses to Miguel Cotto. Zab Judah gives a good account of himself but loses to Floyd Mayweather Jr. The list goes on and on. When they face B- or C+ level fighters, they emerge victorious. Malignaggi beats Juan Baby Bull Diaz. Zab Judah beats Corey Spinks. This fight, to me, has draw written all over it, and I'm gonna tweet it. I'm gonna put it on my Facebook page. I think Malignaggi will do what he did against Broner. He'll box. He'll touch Zab Judah. He'll move around the ring. Zab Judah will land the powerful punches like Broner did against him, but he won't throw a lot of punches. So my logic of thinking is Judge A will have it 7 rounds to 5 for Malignaggi. Judge B will have it 8 rounds to 4 for Judah, and Judge C will have it 6 rounds apiece. The Battle of Brooklyn between two guys who live in Brooklyn but have never sparred, to my knowledge, have ever stepped into the ring together at Barclays Center. It has draw written all over it. What do you think of that, Jay?
I don't think nothing of it, because, I mean, it's not even a big buzz now. I don't even think part 2 would be a big buzz. But my concern is this. It depends on how this fight would determine is which Zab Judah show up. Will it be the nice Zab Judah, or will it be the one that tire out after a few rounds? Or, you know what I'm saying? I'm concerned about which Zab show up. If it's the real Brooklyn Zab, like, look, I'm going to beat this guy, I don't care. Boom, 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 we're going to go to war. Then I got Zab winning. If it's the nice, not nothing against Christianity, but if it's the nice church playing Zab Judah, I'm going to have some concerns.
It's definitely Zab Judah's fight to lose. Even though he was knocked down, I thought one of his better performances as a pro was against Lucas Matisse. But, you know, Matisse is really not known as a boxer. He's more of a brawler. My main concern with Zab is that, you know, against Garcia, he went in a lot of rounds, a lot of spots where he just didn't throw punches. He just and I have a feeling that Malignaggi's work rate, like you said in the Broner fight, for every one punch, I should say, that Zab throws, Malignaggi is going to throw 4 or 5 in return. So how are you going to score it? Are you going to score Malignaggi's volume of punching or Zab's power punching? That's why I think it has draw written all over it, because it's going to be such a hard fight to score.
Right. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, all we can do is, what is it, December 7th, right? This weekend.
Yes, it's this coming Saturday in Brooklyn.
Yep, on Showtime.
Right. So I'm definitely going to tune in. I haven't even been to his camp. I've seen his dad a few times from sparring Uma, but I haven't even been to Zab camp at all. And, you know, he lives out here in Vegas. I haven't even been to his camp to see how he was training, who he was getting work from. But it's interesting. I will watch it. Like I said, I'm not paying for it, but I will watch it, you know. So,
well,
I don't think it will be a draw.
You don't think it'll be a draw? What do you think?
Nah.
Oh, you like what you just said. If Zab is there and he's not the Mr. Nice Guy, you think Zab will win. If he's the Mr. Nice Guy, then Paulie's going to win.
It's over. Paulie's going to win just on work ethic. And then we got to hope Paulie ain't not discouraged from the Adrian Broner loss. Because sometimes Paulie do get the bad end of the stick sometimes. He do. So
Paulie's very bitter. Mhm.
Right.
He says that every time, every day, no matter where he goes, he said every 2 hours, I can't even talk today, but he says no matter where he goes, there's somebody that said that he got robbed, and that he wants the judges to put on some better glasses.
Right. So I mean, he's been very vocal lately. I mean, I actually like Paulie. Like, I don't know him personally, but I like him as a fighter. You know, I just wish he could punch more, like have harder punches. I ain't gonna say punch more, have harder punches. But I like him, so I'm curious to see that fight. What about Adrian Broner and Maidana?
Yeah, what about Adrian Broner and Maidana? What do you think?
I think Adrian gonna win, just because of just off of skill level. Just off of skill level, I think Adrian will win.
Yeah,
that's another one of them.
Yeah, I kind of think it's a mismatch waiting to happen. I think Madonna's way too slow, doesn't have any foot movement at all. But I'll tell you what, though, if Broner fights Madonna the way he fought Malignaggi and stands in front of Madonna, you know, and he stands in front of Madonna can hurt him and maybe score a flash knockdown. So it would behoove Adrian Broner to box a little bit and don't start believing in his own press clippings that he's some sort of puncher, because that could lead to his downfall on December 14th.
Right. I sparred Maidana before, and he can punch. And this is going to be one of the only difference is that Maidana is lacking speed. But if Maidana catch Adrian Broner, it's going to be sponsored by Tempur-Pedic. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be, you might as well bring out sleeping bags because he's going to sleep. But at the same time, it's like people said that about Danny Garcia and Lucas Matisse. You know, I actually bet on that fight, and I bet on Danny. I said, Danny going to outbox him. And actually, Danny started going towards him. And Danny showed that he could take a punch. But I mean, I think this will really show if Adrian Broner have a chin or not, if McDonough catch it.
Absolutely. And you made a great point about Garcia. It just goes to show you that sometimes body language means nothing, because I remember when Matisse destroyed Lamont Peterson, they showed Danny Garcia at ringside, and he looked like a deer in the headlights. I don't want any part of Matisse. Then he accepts the fight, and everyone, including myself, I actually predicted Matisse in that fight. We were all wrong, and Danny Garcia proved that he belongs to be in, I guess, everyone's pound-for-pound list. I mean, he just cracked my pound-for-pound list with that win, and he's developed into an elite fighter.
I like him. Danny is one fighter who I like his resume. He got a nice resume. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny you like Lamont because I like Lamont Peterson too. I don't know him either, but I think he was a great boxer. You know what I'm saying? I think he's a good boxer. What about Devin? You know what I want to talk about? Devin Alexander and Sean Porter.
That should be a good fight. Sean Porter is very good. You know, he's a great amateur.
But Devin Alexander, the amateurs ain't got nothing to do with these pros. But
I understand.
Devin Alexander is a great boxer too, with speed.
That's true. He is.
The problem,
and he was a good amateur too.
Right.
You know, the problem with Sean Porter was, you know, he fought Alfonso Gomez and beat him, and he has 2 victories over Julio Diaz, who was a fringe contender back in the day. He just doesn't have the resume that Devin Alexander has. But then again, I've always won that. As much as I respect Devin Alexander, because we've interviewed him on the show before, you know, he basically got 2 what I call controversial or maybe even gift decisions against Matisse and Kotovnik. I thought he lost both of those fights, and the judges gave him a decision, but he did rebound quite nicely. He thrashed Randall Bailey in one-sided fashion, and what I think was his career-defining victory, he destroyed Marcos Maidana, who, as we all know, will be fighting Broner in a couple of weeks. So it depends which Devin Alexander shows up. If Devin Alexander is committed, like he was against Bailey and Maidana, I think Porter, at this stage of his career, is just a little bit too green. And Devin Alexander should win a hard-fought decision. But if he has some lows and Porter is aggressive and sort of tries to take away Devin Alexander's heart, sort of like what Timothy Bradley did when he beat Devin Alexander, sort of forced him to fight in the trenches and took away his heart, Porter's got an outside chance, you know, to pull off the upset, but I still think I'd have to go with Devin Alexander by a hard-fought, unanimous decision victory, though.
Right. I agree. I kind of agree with you. I kind of agree with you on that one. So we got one thing. We got something in common on that one.
Yeah, you guys have a lot in common, I'm sure. Well, Chase, we do have to go to a commercial. We're going to have to let you go, but it's been you have a lot of knowledge, and you're 27 years. You're very wise, and we hope you're going to come back again when you're fighting, so you can let us know how that's going to go.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me on. Enjoy the rest of the show. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. Good having you on. We're going to go to a commercial. We'll come right back with Real Combat Media Boxing Radio in 1 minute and 32 seconds.
This is Real Combat Media Radio. Check us out at realcombatmedia.com. While you're there, check out the Feed the Poor link on the bottom of every article, and you can send a donation if you're interested. That is, once again, on the bottom of every article as well as on the top of the website. If you are an MMA, boxing, or fitness business and interested in sponsoring our website or radio podcast, send us an email. Advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Once again, that is advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Make sure to check out the Real Combat Media MMA and boxing store at the top of the menu at realcombatmedia.com. We carry a collection of products. We have the Cardio Mask, which is excellent for all fighters, endurance athletes, and serious fitness enthusiasts. Once you are in the Real Combat Media store, click on the banner on that page. We also carry Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain is a great and natural product which activates your brain's neurotransmitters and helps you think more clearly, which improves brain function. You can also purchase the world's healthiest plant protein, which comes from hemp. There are many other products online on the online store, and click on the On It banner at the Real Combat Media store, and you can purchase Alpha Brain and other health products. Use the discount code Real Combat Media, and you will receive 10% off at the checkout store on the On It. That is ONNIT. on the banner at Real Combat Media Store. Buckle up. Here we go. Let's get this show started.
Welcome back to Real Combat Media Boxing Radio, episode 37. I'm your host, Christy Rosario, here in Los Angeles, California. My co-host is Richard Solomon, the boxing prophet in New York City. You can call us live at 347-324-5998. You can Twitter us at Real Combat Media or at Boxing Girl, BXINGIRL, or at Boxing Prophet 68. Find us on Facebook at Real Combat Media in the search bar. And we are back. We just spoke to Chase Corbin, a very interesting and knowledgeable young man. What did you think, Prophet?
I liked him a lot. I enjoyed him. We seem to have a lot in common. You know, our prognostication skills are a little bit apart, but he grew up idolizing Thomas Hearns, and Thomas Hearns happens to be my favorite fighter of all time. And nobody knows this, so I'll let it. You know, it used to be top secret, but since we have a little bit of time, I grew up on the same block for about 10 or 11 years with Brad Goodman. He lived about 4 or 5 blocks away from me, and you know, we grew up in the same town, and I knew him for about 10 years. Brad Goodman now is one of the matchmakers over at Top Rank. So I'm going to have hopefully I can reconnect with him, and I could tell him to, you know, put Chase in some good fights. He's a good guy, and maybe we could even get Brad to come on the show, except he'll probably insult me every chance he gets. So we'll have to see about that. But
why would he insult you? What did you do?
Well, now he works with Top Rank. He's very good friends with Dan Rayfield.
I said, what did you do? Why would he insult you?
Oh, well, we had a little bit of a falling out. We used to be really good friends, and then we went a certain amount of time. I went to Vegas. He now relocated from Long Island to Vegas, and he used to take me to all the fights. It was me, Brad Goodman, and Johnny Boz, may he rest in peace, former matchmaker who passed away recently. We saw, I mean, how many fights did we see together? We saw Roy Jones, Pazienza in Atlantic City together. We saw Lennox Lewis, Holyfield won at the Garden, a very controversial draw. We saw your man, Felix Tito Trinidad, defeating Pernell Whitaker at the Garden. And all these fights, Brad took me to out of the kindness of his heart for free because we were buddies. And then we just lost touch. He moved to Vegas. And, you know, you don't connect with a friend for a certain amount of months, and, you know, it just, your relationship doesn't stay the same. And, you know, I should reach out to him. I'll shoot him a text and see if we can get him on the show. But he always thought, and I guess, you know, he's a matchmaker at ESPN, so he must be doing something right. But we used to argue about who's going to win this fight and who's going to win that fight. So I think he'd be great for, you know, this type of program because he would, you know, try to just rattle me and try and guarantee who's going to win each fight. And we used to have a lot of spirited debates back in the day. He's a great guy. I'm going to definitely try and get him on the show if I can.
Okay. Well, I think more than anything, it would just be fun to have him come on and harass you. I wouldn't mind hearing that. That would be kind of fun.
You'll get your money's worth from him, no doubt about that.
Well, that would be good. And, you know, in a few minutes, Al Bernstein is coming on, and not sure what happened to Keith Thurman. I guess he's working out because he's going to need to against Jesus Soto Carras. I don't know what is wrong with me and my speaking today. I'm sorry. I keep tripping over my words. But we are here at Real Combat Media Boxing Radio, and you can call us live, and you can harass Prophet all you want at 347-324-5998. Why don't we, Prophet, since we are just have a little bit of time and we have so much boxing, let's talk about Sergey Kovalev against Ismail Silica. I couldn't believe he was from the Ukraine. I was very surprised. I don't know. He didn't look like he was from the Ukraine to me, but it was very interesting. Tell me your take on that fight.
You know, as good as Stevenson looked, I thought Kovalev looked like a machine. I thought Kovalev looked, even though it's different weight classes, he sort of looked like the light heavyweight Triple G. I think Kovalev and Triple G might be the stars of the future. He had a very uneventful first round. and I actually thought he lost the first round because the challenger showed a lot of lateral movement, and he boxed well, and he did well, you know. And Kovalev seemed like he was a little bit befuddled, but in the second round he unleashed a beautiful two-punch combination. Down went Ishmael, if I hopefully pronounced the name right, but I'm not going to get all over the referee for this, Christy, but maybe you can help me out with it. He goes down, and I think, you know, the referee should have told Kovalev to stay in the neutral corner until I'm done counting. And he was counting, and he was up to 8. And then when he told the fighters to continue, Kovalev was already like 5 feet away from the guy. You know, usually when you say continue after a knockdown, the guy's in his neutral corner, and you know, you have to wait till the referee says fight. The referee said fight, and Kovalev was already 5 feet away from the guy. So it was just a little bit disconcerting about the officiating in that fight, but it didn't matter because Kovalev just unleashed another brutal 3-punch combination. Down he went, and for all intent and purposes, the fight was over. I thought Kovalev's performance was a lot better than Stevenson. I was very disenchanted by the post-fight interview that Stevenson wants Bernard Hopkins. Canada wants the winner of Pascal Boutte to fight Stevenson. That's all nonsense. Stevenson wants no part of Kovalev after that bruising performance. Stevenson even called out, you know, Bernard Hopkins and Carl Flock, 2 fighters who are, you know, kind of way past their prime. And I think if they did meet head-to-head, and Max Kellerman called it correctly, at least in my eyes on HBO, I don't think it's all that competitive, to be honest with you. Yes, Stevenson may have the puncher's chance if he lands a haymaker, but Kovalev can do a lot more than Stevenson. Like Triple G, he's more of a versatile fighter. He can jab and he can slug. Stevenson's only chance would be to box and move like he did against Tavares Cloud. I don't see it being competitive. Believe it or not, Christy, if you ask me if this fight is made tomorrow, I like Kovalev to destroy Adonis Stevenson in 6 one-sided rounds.
Okay. Yeah, you know, I thought it was interesting, too, that he wanted Hopkins and Froch, but I didn't think it was such a big deal. Like, I keep reading online, you know, it's such a big deal. We're so disappointed. He should have said he wanted, you know, Kovalev and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't a big deal. He said, sure, I'll box him. I mean, what was he supposed to jump up and down and, like, say, please, fight me, fight me? I thought he was fine, you know. I also don't know if it's going to, that would be a great fight. But, you know, let him fight Hopkins and Froch and then go and fight Kovalev. And Kovalev can fight. Who else would you like to see for Kovalev?
I mean, it's an interesting question, you know, with if they're not going to fight each other, then I would assume Stevenson would fight either Pascal or Boutte because, you know, both of them are from Canada, and that would be a fight that Canadian fans would love. If you're Kovalev, the only other route you go is Bernard Hopkins. You know, if he fights Bernard Hopkins, you know, Bernard Hopkins went on the air after his most recent victory and said there's a Cold War brewing, that, you know, in a perfect world he would fight Stevenson or Kovalev, but HBO and Showtime don't get along anymore, so that fight could never be made. You know, money talks. If there's enough money on the table, I'm sure Kovalev and Hopkins could fight, and that would be a great fight. And if Kovalev beats Hopkins, then Stevenson fights the winner of Boutte, Pascal, and or Carl Flock. And if Stevenson wins that fight, then they'll finally meet each other. What left a bitter taste in my mouth is Kovalev called out Stevenson immediately with help from Max Kellerman, of course, whereas Stevenson said, yeah, if the money's right, I'll fight Kovalev. But first, give me, you know, Boutte, Pascal, or Hopkins, Flock. You know, I just, you know, money, it was what Chase was saying. You know, now it's all about the money. It's not about fighting the best out there. And, you know, Max Kellerman made another great point towards the end of the show, that if both of these guys really care about their legacies more than they care about making money, then they'll fight each other. And that's what I like to see, a throwback to the 80s. It's not about making money. It's about cementing your legacy as, you know, the best fighter of your era, the best fighter of your decade. And to do that, you have to fight the best. You don't always take, you know, the easy way out, the most money for the least amount of risk. You have to go in there and take a calculated risk. And I think, on the surface, it's a great fight, two punchers, but I see Kovalev being a lot more seasoned. I think he beats Stevenson pretty easily. I think he's the better fighter at this point in their careers.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. I mean, maybe if Stevenson does go with the other guys and fights him and then comes with Kovalev. But, yeah, Kovalev is very, what should I say, he's very self-assured. He's a very good fighter, and he's, I don't know about that fight. It's very interesting. So I don't know. I mean, I thought it was a good fight. I felt a little bad for Silak, though. I mean, oh, my God, he really looked hurt as well. But what do you think? We'll see him again, or you think that's kind of like he's done?
Yeah, I think his best days are behind him, and he had a good amateur career. So coming into the doubleheader, I deemed him as more of a risk than to beat Kovalev than Bellew to beat Stevenson. As a matter of fact, on your Facebook page, I think I predicted Kovalev by a 10th round TKO and Stevenson, I think, by a 7th round TKO. So I was pretty close with the Stevenson fight, way off on the Kovalev fight, but at least I saved myself on Twitter. But I sent you a message that I would be shocked if neither fight went the distance. And, of course, Kovalev and Stevenson did what they were both expected to do, which was knock out their, opponents. But I don't know. The interview with Stevenson left a bitter taste in my mouth, and hopefully, the fans don't get deprived of another mega fight that doesn't happen. We've already seen that, transpire over the past, 5 years or so. This fight really needs to take place the sooner the better. You don't want it to, Bob Arum's famous words used to be, let the fight marinate. And you saw what happened with Gamboa and Wanma and Abner Morris Donaire. It got to the point where it marinated for too long, and then one of the guys lost, and then these fights never took place. So let's forget the nonsense, and let's just have Stevenson and Kovalev fight. The sooner the better. It's a win-win proposition for both the fighters and the fans.
I agree. So hopefully you heard the boxing prophet, and you know what? You were very good. I know it was a second round knockout, and you said 10, but, give or take a few rounds, you were pretty good this past weekend, so I've got to give you props. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to go to a commercial and come right back with our Hall of Famer, Al Bernstein. So we'll be right back.
This is Real Combat Media Radio. Check us out at realcombatmedia.com. While you're there, check out the Feed the Poor link on the bottom of every article, and you can send a donation if you're interested. That is, once again, on the bottom of every article as well as on the top of the website. If you are an MMA, boxing, or fitness business and interested in sponsoring our website or radio podcast, send us an email. Advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Once again, that is advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Make sure to check out the Real Combat Media MMA and boxing store at the top of the menu at realcombatmedia.com. We carry a collection of products. We have the Cardio Mask, which is excellent for all fighters, endurance athletes, and serious fitness enthusiasts. Once you are in the Real Combat Media store, click on the banner on that page. We also carry Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain is a great and natural product which activates your brain's neurotransmitters and helps you think more clearly, which improves brain function. You can also purchase the world's healthiest plant protein, which comes from hemp. There are many other products online on the online store, and click on the On It banner at the Real Combat Media store, and you can purchase Alpha Brain and other health products. Use the discount code Real Combat Media, and you will receive 10% off at the checkout store on the On It. That is ONNIT on the banner at Real Combat Media store. Buckle up. Here we go. Let's get this show started.
Welcome back to Real Combat Media Boxing Radio, episode 37. I'm your host, Christy Rosario, here in Los Angeles. My co-host is still Richard Solomon, the boxing prophet in New York City. So if you ever want to know who's going to win the fight, just Twitter the prophet. You can call us live at 347-324-5998. You can Twitter us at Real Combat Media or at Boxing Girl, BXINGIRL, or at The Boxing Prophet Boxing Prophet 68, and then you can ask him, or you can disagree with him or whatever you want to do. Find us on Facebook at Real Combat Media in the search bar. We are now going to be joined, and I'm very excited about this because I'll tell you why after we introduce him. Hall of Fame boxing commentator and current Showtime boxing analyst, Al Bernstein. How are you, Al?
I'm good, Christy. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us today. I know you are busy.
It's been an interesting day. I just finished doing my first Google Hangout, or boxing Hangout on Google Plus and YouTube, and so it was an active day for me. But I'm happy to visit with you guys.
Well, we're so glad. And how did that go for you?
It was good. It was a lot of fun. And, in fact, shortly, if folks want to go on YouTube or on Google Plus, in a little while they can revisit it. It'll be up there posted. And Kevin Ioli was my guest, the Yahoo Sports writer, boxing writer. So it was a fun time. We had a good time.
So now, will it also be on, I know you have boxingchannel.tv. Will it be on that as well?
Yeah, it will be at some point. Yes, it will be on that a little later this evening. First, it'll be on YouTube and Google+, but yes, we're going to run that on boxingchannel.tv as well.
I am really enjoying boxingchannel.tv. I mean, I just kind of came across it recently, and I have been I'm like, I need you to add more of your, analysis. I'm listening to everything. My favorite so far is What You Do Not Want to See. Adrian Broner, I was so happy that you said that. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a feature I do, Things I Could Live Without, and one of them was Adrian Broner's sex tape, which I felt that, we have enough with the Kardashians and Paris Hilton and God knows who else. Plenty of sex tapes. We don't really need an additional one. But I'll be saying Mr. Broner. Yeah, exactly.
Especially him.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, it's so anyway, thank you for the comments. We're enjoying doing the material for the Boxing Channel, and it's been a really fun journey to do that.
Yeah, I love it. And how long has it been going on for?
It's been up for about a year and a half, and we've been pretty active and posting a lot of material on there on boxingchannel.tv, and everything from you, of course, have seen it. Previews of fights, coverage of fights, post-fight coverage. We have a library of fights from the Fabulous Forum, all the great fights from the 1980s and 70s and 90s that were there. So we have a lot to choose from, and it's all free. People can just go there and click on it. So it's been fun, and it was an interesting endeavor to when they asked me to be executive producer of it. It was like kind of. I felt like the early days of cable when we were pioneering with ESPN. This is essentially the same thing. It's pioneering a different way of delivering content to people.
Yeah, and it's such a great way because, everyone's on the Internet these days. And, I was reading, Unfortunately, I didn't get to read all of your book yet. Let's tell everyone, 30 years, 30 undeniable truths about boxing, sports, and TV. And, it was so interesting what I got to read. Unfortunately, when I saw you, I wasn't one of the ones that got one of your books, but I have since tried to read a lot of it. And when you were talking about, ESPN, that's what I have to tell everybody. Okay, you have a special place in my heart, Al, okay? I just want to tell you.
Oh, my God. Well, I'm honored for that.
Well, your wife is going to be okay because it's very platonic, but when you were with ESPN and I won the U.S. Nationals at the Arrowhead Pond, the finals were commentated by you, and it was like such an honor. I get to win, and I get to have you announce the whole fight. It was great.
I enjoyed. You brought that up when I saw you at the amateur boxing meet that you were refereeing and part of the officiating. I always enjoyed doing the women's. I did it 3 or 4 times. The women's nationals and the amateurs, and I really enjoyed it. Number one, I enjoy women's boxing. I think it's a very underrated part of the sport. Doesn't get its share of attention, but when matches are good in women's boxing. I find them equally and sometimes more exciting than the men. But I really enjoyed doing that, and that's fun that I was able to do yours, and then later we could reconnect.
I know, and at that point, and I don't want to really date you or I, especially myself, but when I won, it was yes, but it was like it was almost thank you. It was the heyday for women. You had Christy Martin on Sports Illustrated. You guys were televising us win the Nationals, and I got to fight. It wasn't like I fought once. I fought 3 times at that Nationals. I had a lot of people in my bracket. And now why is it, Al, that you hardly see women's boxing at all?
Well, the irony is that, and I don't know if this is going to change things, the women did so well at the Olympics, and, of course, boxing was added for women as an Olympic sport in this last Olympics, and the only American medals won by amateur boxers were by 2 women. And maybe that will jumpstart it a little bit. Women's boxing has had a hard time grabbing hold. And I think it's one of those things where it's kind of a victim of circumstances. A lot of times when women's matches were featured, they weren't the right ones to be featured, or they didn't really show the matches that were the most interesting. It's been very tough for the sport to grab a hold with not only with the sports fans, but with those people that are the decision makers in boxing. And I don't know. Hopefully that can change a bit, because I have a great respect for the women that box, and I've found in most of them, are women that came to it from other sports, or had found that it was it was an interesting sport, and they like the competitive nature of it. So I hope that there can be a little more traction for it in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love, like you, I love boxing, men and women, but it's just, it would be nice to see all these talented people get televised as well. But I want to ask you, you have your book. Like I just said, it's 30 years, 30 undeniable truths about boxing, sports, and TV. The foreword is from George Foreman, which I thought was very interesting. I really like it. I'm going to finish the book. Now, why don't you tell everyone, what made you decide to sit down and you wrote it, because I know you're talking all about being a ghostwriter, and you are not. So what made you sit down and write this book?
Well, I had a couple of people come to me at various times about it, and then Diversion Books came to me recently, and it was around the time when I was doing the Hall of Fame induction, and I thought, it might be the appropriate time to do something, and I wanted to do something fun and lighthearted, and for anybody that gets this book, and by the way, the best way to get it is probably Amazon.com. It's both an e-book and a regular book, and also an audio book is available. But for anyone that reads it, it's a fun book, as you know from looking at it. It's a lot of fun stories. There's a lot of humor in it. I didn't write the be-all and end-all boxing book. There's lots of boxing in there, but for the most part, it's a lot of stories about interesting people in the boxing world I've met, funny situations, a lot about ESPN and its development as a network. And I just wanted a chance to finally write down some of these memories and some of these experiences that I had shared with people. And I've been pushed kind of to do it. You mentioned my wife. She's been pushing me for about 10 years to write a book. So I finally acquiesced, and it was fun. And the response has been very nice to it. So I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I like it. I like your little, subtly, you're very funny, and I like the little digs. Like sometimes you'll say stuff about, whatever, a fighter or a promoter, like you said, ESPN, Larry Merchant. I mean, I like your humor, and you said everything has humor, and I agree with you. And, it's just, I recommend the book. Definitely.
Yeah, I wanted to write a book that people would have fun reading. Put it down and say, wow, I got some good laughs out of that. There are a few moments in the book, of course, that are serious. One is I kind of talk about the state of sportscasting today in one of the chapters, and that one is a more that one is probably the only part of the book where I actually have a strong viewpoint that I'm trying to present. But for the most part, I'm. People have said that about the book, that they got a lot of laughs out of it, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I love it. Prophet, you're going to have to get this book. We have the Boxing Prophet, who is he's just a boxing historian and everything. Prophet, I know you want to ask Al a question before he has to leave us.
How are you, Al? I intend on buying your book. The last book I read, boxing-related, was Inside the Ropes by the late, great Arthur McCanty Sr., may he rest in peace. So,
Arthur, great guy, yeah.
Yeah, and I did read some bits and pieces of the book online, and I just wanted to read a quote from, I hope it comes from Truth number 15, when you wrote, your wife, Connie, was battling cancer, and you wrote, and I quote, you are lucky in love when your wife faces potential death better than most people face life. And I think that just goes to show what a tremendous, compassionate human being you are, as well as your wife. And you started that foundation, which I believe still exists today. And it just goes to show what a great, not only boxing figure you are, but a great humanitarian and a great human being you are.
Oh, that's it's very nice of you. When the people do get a chance to see it, my wife was a stage 4 breast cancer survivor, and in the midst of all of that, she decided, along with her oncologist, and while she was still fighting for her life, to create a center called the Caring Place that would help those touched by cancer with all kinds of services that she had used to help her heal, and healing arts and support services, nutritional services, all kinds of things. And for those people that couldn't afford all that, they get it for free at the Caring Place. It's in Las Vegas, where we live. And I didn't write the book. Wasn't really about me personally or my family life or anything, but I felt it was necessary to put that story in because I thought it was pretty remarkable and very nice of you to bring it up. My wife is the one that I have all the admiration for, because at a time when she could have easily just said, I'm going to think about myself, she thought of other people, and I think that's a pretty extraordinary thing. And I wonder, certainly I helped in the endeavor, as did other people, but I wonder if I was in that situation, could I do what she did? And I don't know, but she did, and it was extraordinary. So thanks for bringing that up.
No problem. And also, let me state that, because I'm Jewish as well as you are, I want to wish you and the family a happy Hanukkah. I didn't want to forget, because it is the 7th night of Hanukkah. I hope you got lots of presents under your menorah, I hope.
Well, we have a blended family. So my wife and her last name is Rocco. So we've got Christmas, we got all kinds of things going on. So we got every holiday imaginable.
Well, as long as you get presents, that's all that counts, regardless of what holiday.
There you go. We've got our priorities straight, don't we?
Yes, and you've been covering, you're an iconic figure in the sport. You've been covering fights for years, and so, it's the old age question, what was the best fight you covered live? And I'm thinking to myself, it's got to be Hagler-Hearns, or it's got to be Bo Holyfield 1. But I read somewhere that you said, oddly enough, which was one of my favorite fights of all time, that Diego Corrales against Jose Luis Castillo 1 was probably your favorite fight to cover of all time.
Yeah, the Hagler-Hearns and Holyfield Bo 1 were in my top 5 for sure. But I think the best and most exciting fight I've announced was Corrales-Castillo 1. If people remember that fight, it fought at a fever pitch pace the whole way through. Both men were astonishing. And then finally in the 10th round, what made it really amazing was the end of the fight where first Corrales was knocked down twice in the 10th round and then still came back to stop Castillo in that round. So it was an amazing fight. And I think probably, it's hard to choose the best of the thousands that you've announced. I mean, God knows I've done a zillion fights, it seems like. And but that one, to me, kind of stands out.
And it didn't bother you till this day that Diego Corrales, may he rest in peace, spat out his mouthpiece intentionally both times to give himself more time to recover?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. And certainly the one for sure was intentional, maybe both. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Tony Weeks took a point away for that But, of course, it did still get him extra time. And of course, what he did there was, by taking the point away, too, with the 2 knockdowns and everything, it meant the fight was in the hip pocket of Jose Luis Castillo if Corrales had not come back. But, yeah, it was a questionable, I just think that Tony Weeks said, I'll take the point away instead of disqualifying him for it. But, yeah, that was a fairly canny move by Corrales, and I understand that, many people look at that askance.
And Christy and I, my final question to you, Christy and I often spar live on the air, verbally, not physically, because I'm not a fighter. She'd kick my ass if we...
She'd be a tough rookie to spar with, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I wouldn't last 2 rounds with a woman of her talent. But, boxing fans who aren't diehards like the 3 of us are, you take a look at what's going on lately, and it's been a pattern developing over the past, 5 to 10 years. Flock against Groves, the probably one of the most heinous stoppages I've ever seen in my 30 years of watching boxing. And then C.J. Ross's reprehensible scorecard with Canelo, Floyd Mayweather being a draw. And then, when we interview fighters and referees and, judges, they say we need a federal commission that would regulate all of these problems. We interviewed referee Jack Reese a couple of weeks ago, and he said the reason why this is happening is because we don't have a federal commission. So I ask you, the legendary Al Bernstein, what would you do to solve all these atrocities that are happening with the referees and the judges that are going around?
Well, some of it, I think it could help to have a centralized commission that could oversee everything. That, of course, wouldn't handle, you mentioned one of the situations that happened in England with Howard Foster, and I agree with you, it was a terrible stoppage. And equally as bad were the 2 of the judges only had Groves ahead by 1 point in that fight. But the officiating and the refereeing is a serious issue right now in boxing. And strangely enough, it comes at a time when the sport itself has produced the best product that we've seen in 25 years. This year has been the most unbelievable, miraculous year for great fights in the sport of boxing. However, the one downside is it has been slightly tarnished by poor refereeing, often, and even sometimes when the right person has won, we look at the scorecards and the margin is absurd, or somebody, as you mentioned with C.J. Ross, has it scored in an incomprehensible way. So it's a big issue. I don't know if the federal commission would solve all the problems, even in the United States, but there's no question both referees and judges need to be better. And I don't know what part of it is from incompetence, what part is from bias, or what part is from them thinking they're doing the right thing for the sport overall, even if they shape things. So, it's an unfortunate situation.
And do you think maybe the judges, like I was telling Christy, that sometimes in football, how the defensive coordinators are up in the skybox. Maybe you can have some sort of trial run where you put the 3 judges in the skybox, have them with monitors, and this way they're privy to, the instant replay and stuff like that, and they won't be able to use the excuse, well, the ropes and or the referee sort of impeded my vision. I couldn't see it because of the angle that the ref was at or the ropes. Do you think that would be good to do that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at it on the monitor. You get a good view, but again, it's still, I know a lot of people say, well, you're seeing the fight from 3 different angles, and they say that's why you do it, so that you'll get a fair, objective view. And certainly the view from the camera would be probably the most unimpeded. I don't know if they would. I can't imagine them having them look at monitors. I don't think it's a bad idea, but I'd be shocked if they would accept that.
And
well, that's
about,
quite. Hold on. Yeah, I mean, it's quite a debate. You can sit here, and when Prophet and I are talking, I am an AIBA referee judge. So for me, I have to be a little more neutral and understanding because
Sure.
we're all human, and so that makes it a little hard. But Prophet, okay, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was also going to say, Al makes a very good point that they're having a lot of great fights this year, and the judging and the referees sometimes get in the way of that. But and Christy and I also speak about the fact that everyone knows, Al, that there's a Cold War brewing, with top-ranking Golden Boy, and HBO and Showtime, and you're in the middle of it, obviously, because you're a Showtime announcer, and you think it's bad for the sport that a lot of fights that, could be made, I guess, can't be made because of, the conflicting schedules and the political bantering going back and forth. What do you say is, as an announcer, does it break your heart to see stuff like that happen?
Well,
the fans are deprived of a lot of fights that could be happening, and they're not happening for political reasons.
Well, here's the funny thing about that. That's a fair statement, except here's what's kind of a byproduct of this Cold War. And I mentioned I just had Kevin Aioli on, who's the writer for Yahoo Sports, and he's got a column on this, or a story on it that he's doing, and he believes, as I do, that strangely enough, the Cold War between the promoters and the fact that they've aligned themselves when HBO made its announcement not to do any more of the fights with Golden Boy Promotions, and the two camps got pretty much, in one camp, top ranked for the most part in the HBO camp, and Golden Boy in the Showtime camp. What it's done, interestingly, is it's actually created, for right now, it's created better fights for the sport of boxing. That may not continue after a year or so when everybody's made all their intramural fights. There are some fights. Of course, we'd like to know how would Provodnikov do against Maidana or et cetera. But what it has done is it's made the competition so strong that nobody can afford to make bad fights. And so that's what contributed to this year being so amazing in a way, because the top-ranked / HBO group and the Showtime / Golden Boy group, and then the other promoters who work with them, have been forced to make good fights because the competition is so strong. So they've done so. The time when I think we're going to be asking this question even more is maybe 18 months down the road or so, or 2 years from among the people that are available to each of these TV entities and to these promoters, and then now we're left with fights that can't be made. And that's probably around the time when I think the two promotional groups will figure out a way to work together.
Well, now I want to ask you, Al, am I allowed to ask you a question about HBO fighters, or did you sign a little contract?
Yeah, sure. I'm not. Absolutely. I'm covering boxing, so and especially for the boxing channel. Yeah, sure. No, there's no problem with that.
Okay, well, I want to know, because we always talk about Judah and Malignaggi. I want to know what you think, and I know you like this fighter, Guillermo Rigondeaux versus Joseph Ekbeka. What do you think? Who's going to win this? Is it going to be close?
Well, I think Rigondeaux fought a brilliant fight against Donaire, and I think he was, he survived the knockdown, and I know that not everybody finds him thrilling and exciting, but he's got a lot of great skills. And Ekbeka, who I did number of his fights, including the Mares fights and his fight with Yanni Perez, he's a very, very good fighter. And I think if someone thinks he's just a kind of a patsy for Rigondeaux to walk through, they're going to be sadly mistaken. But having said that, the ring generalship and the boxing skills of Rigondeaux will probably be enough to carry him to a win in that fight, I'm guessing.
Yeah, he's a fantastic fighter. I mean, they're both fantastic. And like you said, I hope they don't underestimate either one of them. And I know you have to go in a second. I just wanted to ask you, I saw you at the LA Athletic Club. You were there. You were supporting collegiate boxing, which was great. What brought you to that event?
Well, I've been doing some work with UCBA, the United States Intercollegiate Boxing Association, and trying to help them spread the word about amateur boxing, and so I came there under their auspices to be at the event. It was a wonderful event. I mean, it was a number of collegiate teams sent representatives to box, both young men and young women, at various levels of amateur boxing. The boxing was really exciting. I mean, the last 3 or 4 matches I'll put up against any matches anybody will see, and it was great to see the camaraderie between all the coaches and collegiate athletes, and it was at the LA Athletic Club, which is a wonderful place, and it was great, and I got to meet a lot of nice people, see a lot of nice people like you, and the people that work on collegiate boxing and do it just for the love of the sport, I think are owed a great debt of gratitude by everybody that loves the sport.
I agree, and it was great, USC against UCLA, and you had all these different teams, and they improved so much from last year. It was just fantastic. Yeah. And to see you, really, really nice to see you, and I know you're going to run off. Tell us again, though, where can everyone find you, Twitter, Google, whatever is good for you?
Well, they can find me on Twitter at Al Bernstein, and I'm pretty active on Twitter. And then, of course, they can see me, in addition, of course, to being on Showtime, they can see me on the Boxing Channel, boxingchannel.tv. So I'm available. And, of course, as I said, we just started these boxing hangouts on Google Plus and YouTube, so they can find them there as well. So it's been a lot of platforms that I'm involved in right now.
Now, how often will you do this? Can they find you every week on Google Hangout, or how often?
Well, the next Google Hangout we're going to do is going to be Saturday night, a half hour after the and they'll be able to send in questions to me, and I'll react to what happened in the fights. That's the next one. We'll probably do another one the following week. We'll try and do them once a week, and then we're going to try and do them after major fights, pretty much every time, if possible. Because that, I think, is the time when fans would like to interact with me and with other people. We're going to have others on the hangout as well that they can talk to or that they can connect with, and also ask questions of.
That's fantastic, because I know after Malignaggi and Judah or Owner and Madonna, they're going to be so anxious to find out, different things, and you will be there. So go Google Hangout with Al Bernstein. I think that's awesome, and it's so much fun. And I may actually go hang out and ask you some questions too. But I want to thank you so much for coming on. Yeah,
good to visit with you guys.
We love it. Have a wonderful evening, and come back again.
Thanks, Christy. Nice to see you guys. Bye-bye.
You too. Take care. Now we're going to go to a commercial, and we'll be right back with Real Combat Media Boxing Radio. We're going to talk about the upcoming fights. There are so many.
This is Real Combat Media Radio. Check us out at realcombatmedia.com. While you're there, check out the Feed the Poor link on the bottom of every article, and you can send a donation if you're interested. That is, once again, on the bottom of every article as well as on the top of the website. If you are an MMA, boxing, or fitness business and interested in sponsoring our website or radio podcast, send us an email. Advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Once again, that is advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Make sure to check out the Real Combat Media MMA and boxing store at the top of the menu at realcombatmedia.com. We carry a collection of products. We have the Cardio Mask, which is excellent for all fighters, endurance athletes, and serious fitness enthusiasts. Once you are in the Real Combat Media store, click on the banner on that page. We also carry Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain is a great and natural product which activates your brain's neurotransmitters and helps you think more clearly, which improves brain function. You can also purchase the world's healthiest plant protein, which comes from hemp. There are many other products online on the online store, and click on the On It banner at the Real Combat Media store, and you can purchase Alpha Brain and other health products. Use the discount code Real Combat Media, and you will receive 10% off at the checkout store on the On It. That is ONNIT on the banner at Real Combat Media store. Buckle up. Here we go. Let's get this show started.
Welcome back to Real Combat Media Boxing Radio, episode 37. I'm your host, Christy Rosario, here in Los Angeles. My co-host is still the Boxing Prophet, and we are joined with Vivek Wallace, who is the owner and host of the Left Hook Lounge. Vivek, thank you for joining us. How are you this evening?
Hey, guys. How's it going? I'm good. Thank you for having me again.
Well, it's good to have you on here. Now that I actually have you real quick, I want to tell everyone the number. You can call live, 347-324-5998. I hope you understood that. But I want to ask you, because we were talking to Prophet earlier, and now I want to get your take on the Judah Malignaggi fight this coming Saturday.
I think it's a very interesting fight. A lot of people are, somewhat critical because these two men have not been what perhaps some felt they should or would be throughout their careers at one point or the other. But I think there's a reason that they're having this fight. Personally, I would have liked it when they were younger, but there's never a bad time for a good fight. It's in Brooklyn. They're both Brooklynites. I think the Brooklyn faithful and everyone else watching will be entertained. As far as how it turns out, I think that's going to be pretty interesting. I think Judah's speed and relative power will give him an edge. Paulie will fight closely. He's a very good fighter. I think very underrated, to be honest. But I think in the end, Judah probably finds a way to win it on cleaner, more effective power shots landed. But I do expect it to be a close fight. I don't think either one of the guys are running away with this one. That's just my thoughts, though.
All right. Well, Prophet, you said it was going to be a draw, right?
No.
Yeah,
I think it'll be a close.
I think it's going to be a very, very hard fight to score. I think Malignaggi will have an edge in volume punching. He'll land 3 or 4 shots to every one of Judah's shots. In a lot of ways, Vivek, I think it'll be like the Juan Baby Bull Diaz fight, their first fight. I think I'll have it scored probably 7-5 for Malignaggi, but I was telling Christy earlier in the show that one judge will have it 7-5 Malignaggi, the second judge will have it 8-4 Judah, and the third judge will have it 6 rounds apiece. What better way to settle a brawl in Brooklyn than to have it a draw? This fight's going to end in a draw. 2 underachievers. Vivek has draw written all over it.
Yeah, you know what?
Well, what about? Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say I could totally see that happening because it's going to be a very closely contested fight. And the only reason that I give Judah a slight edge is because he'll land harder, and I think the harder shots, for whatever reason, seem to get more pull with the judges more often than not. But I agree with Prophet. It's going to be a close fight, and I would totally not rule out a draw because Paulie will land more.
All right. Well, let's move on. You know, we haven't talked at all about Ruslan de Lara versus Austin Trout. What do you think of that, Prophet, about that fight?
You know, it's a very, very close fight. You know, I just don't know which it's 2 counterpunchers. I really don't know which Ruslan de Lara is going to show up. You know, at times it could be exciting, like with his brawl against Paul Williams and his epic fight against Alfredo Angulo, which he was down twice and showed tremendous guts and fortitude to rally from the brink of defeat and stop Angulo in the 10th round. And you also have Austin Trout, who in spots, you know, fought very, very well, a spirited fight against Canelo Alvarez and Miguel Cotto. He defeated Miguel Cotto in New York, which is very hard to do, but he also stunk out the joint when he beat Devin Rodriguez, and probably one of the most boring fights I've ever seen. I just don't think this fight can be exciting because of the styles. Like I said, both the counterpunchers. The one who comes forward and initiates his game plan probably will win the fight. Even though Lara has the extended amateur pedigree, I think Trout is the more seasoned fighter, believe it or not. And I think, like Malignaggi Judah, that's what's so intriguing about this card. You know, with every fight, it's 50-50. You know, my brain's fried thinking about who's going to win. I think this will be close, but I think down the stretch, the championship rounds, I think Austin Trout will pull it out, and he'll probably do enough to win. I think it's going to be a split decision. I think, again, it's a very close, razor-thin fight, but I think Austin Trout's workman-like ability will seize the day at the end, and he'll score a razor-thin split decision win over Lara. But I wouldn't be surprised at all, just like with Judah and Malignaggi, if Lara wins. That's how close this fight is.
That's another close one. And they're going for the 12 rounds for Lara's WBA interim junior middleweight title. And Vivek, what do you think?
That's going to be a really interesting fight. And again, I agree with Prophet in terms of the complexity score in that particular fight. This is a very interesting matchup in the sense that you have 2 guys who I believe have done a beautiful job making you think that they could win or they should win, but not quite doing enough to cement it when it's time to go to the cards. Lara, you know, in that fight with Paul Williams, a lot of people thought he got robbed. My personal opinion was that had he kept his foot on the gas and actually fought, he could have got that decision. It was the same thing one of his other losses. With Trout, I think it was the same thing when he faced Canelo. Had he done a few things and been a little more assertive throughout that fight, it's a fight that he definitely could have won. You know, even with the knockdown, I think it was fairly close. Closer than the judges had it anyway. But long story short, I think when it's all said and done, the long jab and the southpaw stance of Austin Trout, particularly now that he wants to be a little more aggressive coming off the Canelo loss, I do think that we can expect him to take more chances than Lara will. Lara naturally, I don't know if he's just one of those guys that's so gifted he feels like he doesn't have to take a chance because he's a very good boxer. But at the end of the day, I see Trout actually doing enough to get the nod in that fight. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Hey,
Hello?
I'm here. You know, I was actually talking to you guys and realized that I was on mute. That was really classic. So what I was saying was, sorry about that. You guys can always keep talking if you don't hear me, you know. I know I'm kind of like the goddess now, but you guys can always talk. I'm just kidding. What I was saying was when I printed out all these fights, it's just like a boxing fan's dream with the thousands and thousands of rounds this month. Let's move on to one of my favorites, Guillermo Rigondeaux versus Joseph Agbeko. I always stutter over that one. 12 rounds for Rigondeaux's WBA, WBO junior featherweight title. What do you think, Prophet?
Well, Rigondeaux did pull off a beautiful boxing exhibition against Nonito Donaire. It was a paint job. It's what the sweet science is all about, hit, not being hit. You know, he did go down, I believe, in the later rounds, but for all intent purposes, it was a beautiful, virtuoso performance. And for that, you know, he's being ignored because people like to see a brawl. Agbeko will try his best to make it into a brawl. He fought Abner Mares twice, Yanni Perez twice, Victor Arquinian once. So he actually has the edge in professional experience over Rigondeaux. I just think, you know, styles make fights. He is a little bit long in the tooth, Agbeko, from all these wars he's been in. So if Rigondeaux chooses to slug a little bit, you know, it could be somewhat competitive. But and I think he'll kind of be forced into slugging a little bit because, let's face it, if he boxes like he did against Donaire, he might not get another opportunity because the powers that be don't want to see a guy display, you know, a jab and movement and stuff of that nature. It's just, like I said, they're a dying breed. So I think he will take chances against Agbeko, which he wouldn't ordinarily take, and oddly enough, it'll make the fight more compelling and more competitive. At the end of the day, Rigondeaux wins. He does a little bit of everything. He boxes and he slugs. But I warn everyone that the fight will be competitive. 8 rounds to 4, Rigondeaux wins a tougher than expected decision victory.
You know, that makes me sad, though, because, I mean, I love technical fights. You know, Rigondeaux, his fight against Nonito, I thought was beautiful. I loved how he used his jab. I loved how he moved. And he was really a boxer, you know, and he made Nonito really out of his game because obviously we've gone through this before. Nonito did not have an A, B, and C plan, and I would love to see Rigondeaux do that again. And I hate to think that he has to get in there and slug just to please promoters. So we'll see. But I too, go for Rigondeaux. What about you, Vivek?
Personally, I think that's going to tell us a lot about the true greatness of Guillermo Rigondeaux. He's definitely, I mean, in my book, he's arguably the number 3 pound-for-pound pure fundamental fighter in the game. And I wouldn't really fight with anyone who argued that he may even be number 2. He's very, very technical, although he doesn't always show it. But what I like about this particular matchup is we saw him beat a guy who tried to outbox him, who's more of a puncher, slugger type, and that was Donaire. You know that you can't outbox a purely fundamental boxer. That rarely happens. But this is a fight where he's coming in against a guy who's not going to mix up or remix his game plan and try to be a boxer. This is a guy that's going to make him sweat, make him pay when he makes an issue, and he's going to put a lot of heat and pressure on Rigondeaux. And I think that it's going to tell us how good Rigondeaux is, you know, whether or not he can handle intense pressure. Whether or not he can stay as poised and controlled as an Andre Ward or Floyd Mayweather under that type of pressure. Ibeco is a bulldog. You know, he's going to come to punch. He's not afraid to take a punch. So he's going to answer an element to Rigondeaux's game that we haven't seen yet. And, I mean, personally, I welcome that challenge because I want to know if he's really that good. Should be a good match. As far as who I see winning, I do actually think Guillermo will pull it out. But it'll be interesting to watch how it all unfolds.
It's amazing. I mean, on this card on HBO in Atlantic City, you have Matthew Macklin versus Lamar Russ, 10 rounds, middleweights. We have Matt Korobov versus Derek Edwards. There's Jesse Hart versus Terrell Hendricks. I mean, there's so many fights. And then we go back to Brooklyn to Showtime. So we have, like we talked about, Devin Alexander versus Sean Porter, 12 rounds. Irislan De Lara versus Austin Trout, 12 rounds. Sakio Bika versus Anthony Durrell. Profit. Anything on that one? 12 rounds for Bika's WBC super middleweight title.
Sakio Bika's been in with everyone, from Andre Ward to Joe Calzaghe. He's been in with the best of the best. And, you know, in my eyes, he gave Andre Ward probably his toughest fight as a pro by making Andre Ward fight in the trenches and negating his boxing game. It was an 8-4 fight. Anthony Durrell has yet to have that signature win on his resume, but a lot of people say that he's better than his brother Andre Durrell. He certainly has more power than his brother, but I just don't know if he's seasoned enough. You know, on paper, it looks like Durrell should win because he's younger and Sakio Bika is a little bit, you know, past his prime. And, you know, but I will say this. If Sakio Bika brings his A game and fights with the same ferocity that he did against Andre Ward and Joe Calzaghe and so many other great fighters, it's sort of like a litmus test. If you want to know where you're going in the super middleweight division, you fight Sakio Bika. I'm kind of leaning towards a very, very, very controversial win for Anthony Durrell. Don't be surprised if Sakio Bika knocks him down early, and then maybe Durrell out-hustles him down the stretch, and you have a scorecard that could go either way. But, you know, nowadays, I guess the politically correct fighter gets the benefit of the doubt. And Bika, at this stage, has a plethora of losses, and Durrell's undefeated. So I think at the end of the day, the judges will give it to Durrell in a very, very competitive, hard-fought battle.
All right, what about you, Vivek?
I see it actually being, I won't say easier. A Bika fight is never easy. But I like the talent of Durrell. I think he's a little better than a lot of people out there have given him credit for. He's not as polished as a boxer as his brother Andre, but I do think he's actually the better boxer. You know, and not necessarily speaking on a skill level, just overall grittiness, determination, you know, giving you bang for your buck. I see him winning that fight, honestly, by about 2-3 rounds comfortably. I think he'll get it done.
All right. And now we're going to move on to, Stuttgart, Germany. Darren Barker versus Felix Strum, 12 rounds for Barker's IBF middleweight title. Profit.
Yeah, if there's any justice in this world, Felix Sturm will lose 9 rounds to 3. You know, I'm sick and tired of him going over to Germany, getting bogus decision after bogus decision. You know, we all know what Barker went through. I don't understand why his first title defense, after winning the belt in Atlantic City, he has to go over to Germany. But there's no way Sturm wins this fight legitimately unless he is given just like a gift decision, or almost like a miracle, like, you know, like frock robes where the ref stopped it prematurely. Obviously, Sturm doesn't have the power, so he won't be able to score the knockout victory. But I see Sturm losing 8 rounds to 4, and hopefully it'll be unanimous, and we won't hear from Felix Sturm again, because that whole act of him fighting in Germany and getting gift decision after gift decision, quite frankly, has gotten stale. So in a perfect world, he will lose and he'll retire.
Okay. Vivek.
I think Prophet actually made me laugh there. I would totally co-sign everything he said, though. I'm pretty much in the same basket. I definitely like Barker to get it done there. If I could just simplify the answer and carry his, and hold on to his coattail. Totally understand that.
The Prophet, the Boxing Prophet. Well, I know you are coming up on your show in about 10 minutes. Do you want to tell anybody anything about the show so they can come and listen to you?
Well, I mean, for those out there who don't know, Left Hook Lounge Radio, we run concurrently on the flip side of the show here on Real Combat Media. So we'll be going live tonight talking about a lot of the same things. Unfortunately, we don't bring many hosts on, or guests, I should say, to co-host with us and talk. So you guys are treated to that royalty here on this show, but on my side of the world, when we jump on there Tuesday nights, we pretty much let the fans' voice be heard for the whole 2 hours. We spend that time talking to fans and getting thoughts directly from the fans. So, again, that's Left Hook Lounge Radio. For those who have another 2 hours to listen to boxing talk, feel free to jump in. Just if you're not on Facebook where you can see my direct link, you can just Google Left Hook Lounge Radio, and it should take you directly to the page to hear from that link. So before I run, though, I do want to thank you guys for having me. Again, it's always a blast.
It's always a blast. And, thank you. And I really like your show and our show because we complement each other. So it's perfect. So go listen to Vivek in about 8 minutes. Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Absolutely. You all have a good night, and everyone out there listening, keep it locked right here.
Thanks. Take care. We're going to stay on
Prophet,
and talk a little bit more boxing.
Thanks, Vivek.
All right, Vivek. Take care. So we're going to just stay here. We have about 8 minutes left. Talk a little bit more boxing. We have so many fights. Are there any of your favorite fights coming up, Prophet?
Well, I just wanted to touch briefly on the undercard fights that will be both on Showtime and HBO. On Showtime we covered Judah Malignaggi, we covered Devin Alexander, Sean Porter, Lara Trout, and Saki Albika and Anthony Durrell. So, I made my picks on all those fights. Back on HBO, Rigondeaux over Rebecca, that's the main event, but they're showing 2 fights on the undercard. The return of James Kirkland. I'm sure you're happy that he reunited with Ann Wolfe, who's training him. The big question is, how much does James Kirkland have at age 29? His career stops, then it starts, then it stops again. He's fighting an undefeated contender, Glenn Tapia, who doesn't have that signature win yet. He has slow hands. So if he does brawl with Kirkland, I give Kirkland a puncher's chance. I just think that Glenn Tapia will outwork Kirkland. For every one bomb that Kirkland lands, Tapia's going to land 4 or 5 punches in return. But I think it's going to be a brawl, and in a brawl, you can never count out Kirkland. I wouldn't be surprised if both men hit the deck. I think Tapia's got the fresher legs. I guess he has the fresher chin, if there is such a thing. So I'll say it's a very exciting fight, but I like Tapia to come off the deck. Kirkland will come off the deck as well, but Tapia will stop Kirkland probably in about the 7th round or the 8th round. And Matthew Macklin is also on the HBO undercard, televised against Lamar Russ. Lamar Russ, like Tapia, is an undefeated prospect that very few people have heard of. You don't know what he brings to this dance. Matthew Macklin has fought the best. He fought Sturm in Germany. He fought Triple G. He fought Sergio Martinez. The question with Matthew Macklin is how low is he on the totem pole in terms of his self-esteem? Does he really feel that he has enough left in the tank to beat a fringe contender? The last time he was put in this position, he knocked out Alcine in the first round when it was supposed to be a fight for Alcine to shine. So I'm gonna go against the grain and pick, I guess, my first mini upset of the night. I don't think that Russ has enough ability to beat Matthew Macklin, and if Matthew Macklin, isn't, comes into this fight 100% prepared and he's his old self, I think he beats Lamar Russ by a decision. But that's pretty much it. You got the 3 fights on HBO from Atlantic City and the 4 fights from Showtime in Brooklyn. In a perfect world, I have a helicopter so I can fly from one place to the next. But I can't.
Yeah, you will.
Great.
But hold on a second. Hold on. Before you go on, I want to mention, because I noticed a fight in Germany under the Darren Barker Felix Sturm card, Susie Kentakian versus Simona Galassi. Now, Simona Galassi was a phenomenal amateur. I mean, she won all sorts of everything, and they're going 10 rounds, female flyweight. So that would be interesting. I don't think it's televised, but I'm sure you can probably find it online. All right, go ahead, Prophet. What are the other ones that you're thinking?
So that's about it. I really I sort of made Vivek laugh because, I try and not only be a prognosticator, but since we're live on the air, I try and show my comedic side as well. But I grow very upset when people use their home country to their advantage. And, Felix Sturm has been doing that for years. And Darren Barker is a very capable guy. And, Felix Sturm, to me, his best performance of his career, oddly enough, was when he lost to Oscar De La Hoya years ago. I'm actually in the minority, but I thought he outpointed Oscar De La Hoya. That's when De La Hoya really came in out of shape, and he was treating it like a tune-up fight, which it basically was, except that I thought Sturm beat De La Hoya 7-5. But, he goes over to Germany, and he scores controversial victory after, victory, gets unpopular decisions. Even his own fans boo him. And hopefully Barker will win. I just, it's not that I don't like Sturm personally. I don't dislike any fighter personally. It's just I kind of want to tell it like it is. But
right.
Overall.
But what do you think? What do you think, Prophet, about having a guest come on the show and then he doesn't show up as far as a fighter? I mean, we're supposed to have Keith Thurman. Everyone knows that he's going to be on. We have listeners that come on just to hear Keith Thurman. And he flakes and he doesn't come on, not a text, not a call. I mean, maybe he just feels like I have to train so hard for Jesus Soto Karass because I don't want him to kick my ass. So maybe that's why he didn't come on.
I was thinking about this earlier in the program when we went to commercial. And I think the real reason why he didn't come on was because when we interviewed Jesus Soto Karass a couple of weeks ago, it was my birthday, and you and Jesus Soto Karass were singing happy birthday, or at least Soto Karass attempted to sing happy birthday, and he went on our show and guaranteed that he was going to thrash Keith Thurman as a birthday present to me, and maybe Keith got a little bit upset and thought we were playing favorites.
You know what? Maybe that is it. Maybe he thought we were playing favorites. Maybe he's not a grown-up enough man to at least say, look, something came up. And then if something really did come up that was really emergency, I will feel bad after this. But if nothing came up and he just decided he wanted to just train a little harder because he's a little nervous about Jesus, I will be a little pissed off. But whatever. That's live radio for you. So this is, Real Combat Media Boxing Radio. We had Al Bernstein, which was fantastic, and Chase Corbin, who is, beyond his years. And I enjoyed them both. I thought they were fantastic. Prophet, you have about 40 seconds I can give you to say whatever else you want to say before the end of our show.
But for all the naysayers that are down on the sport of boxing, this is the weekend where you tell your girlfriend, your wife, your significant other, whoever, that you're staying home, you're watching 9-10 hours of television, and this is basically it. Whether you DVR one card or watch the other card live, it doesn't really matter. 4 fights on Showtime, 3 fights on HBO. It's a win-win for everyone. And just have a great weekend, and I look forward to an epic show next Tuesday when we recap all of these 7 fights that are going to leave me bleary-eyed and probably suffering from a wicked case of insomnia on Saturday and Sunday night.
All right. Well, Prophet, we are going to go. I'm going to say my goodbyes now. You take care. This has been another great show. We really enjoyed speaking to Al Bernstein and Chase Corbin. We will be back next Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, with episode 38. Special thanks to Vivek Wallace from the Left Hook Lounge and Sue Fox, WBAN.org. She is always fantastic about posting our press release. Thank you for joining us on Real Combat Media Boxing Radio, and have a fantastic week.